What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the Wise Take MLB DFS Wise stream. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I have a question from the Wise Take Nation, which you can find on all the social media platforms listed above. We are joined once again by the GOAT, the true OG, Paulie D. You can find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 Ds. Paulie, it's been a few hours since we last spoke. Last time I talked to you, you were giving slate breaking plays, such as Donovan Mitchell trying to help the nation book their tickets to Screenshot City. What's happening?
Yeah, baby. That was a good one. I didn't think I was going to get whatever he ended up at.
81 DraftKings points? Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to quickly do the math in X. I guess that's 10.1X. We'll take that. I was thinking like 6X, but that's pretty special. Even without the overtime, it was Smash City, but that was nice for a 17% owned play. But that's in the past. We're on to baseball, and pretty big and ugly slate today, huh?
Yes, big and ugly. 100% big and ugly. But it's all good because we're going to do what we do and find our ways to get to the top. Curious to hear your thoughts on the slate overall. It's a nasty one. Our most expensive pitcher on DraftKings is Ryu. We've got Gallen in a matchup that most people consider tough, right? Anytime the A's are in a better park, we have the roof open over there. You consider that to be a tough matchup. Although this year they haven't been as good. You've got Bassett on the other side against a D-backs team that we don't love to attack. So we're going to have to make some decisions and potentially attack some teams we're not comfortable with. Or you're going to have to roll the dice with some of those guys in the mid-tier or value town. So definitely a weird, funky slate. I think the cash game pitchers are pretty obvious in Ryu and Stripling, just based off of ownership, based off of, I guess you could say, floor. But neither of those guys I'm too excited about in tournaments, so that means I'm going to have to get dirty. And I mean real dirty. Well, maybe not that dirty, but at least minorly dirty. Something. With that said, Paulie, what are your overall thoughts on this dirty burger?
Yeah, I think with pitching being how weak it is, you want to probably go mid-tier to low and use most of your money on the bats. Those kind of builds, get the better bats into your stack and find those two kind of 7K, 6 and change K pitchers that do enough dirt to equal out the high guys.
I feels you. Let's go ahead and talk some pitching. I know you were just saying in tournaments you plan on attacking the mid-tier. Talk to me about any spend-ups, if at all, that you plan on using.
Yeah, I don't plan on using anybody above 8K. I'd say Griffin Canning's probably the first candidate at 82. I'll leave the next tier for mid-tier. But I'd say Ryu, although Baltimore's been really good offensively and they're really good against lefties. But if I was coming up here, it would be Ryu or Canning. Those are the only two that I've got any interest in.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that Ryu's ownership on DraftKings is enough to warrant at least going underweight. I'm not going to fully fade him, but I will go underweight just purely off ownership. And if you look at the numbers, Ryu's off to a good start, but if you look at the O's, really impressive numbers against lefties. More importantly, even if you don't think that Ryu's going to get blasted, I'm concerned about ceiling. That's why I'm okay with playing him in cash, because I think his floor is decent today because he himself is a really good pitcher. But I think that the ceiling is in jeopardy. He's playing an O's team that really hasn't been striking out. A lot of high ISOs and Robos to start the season. And it's a hitter's park. So in tournaments, I am looking elsewhere. I think the most expensive pitcher I'm looking at today, and probably my favorite pitcher on the board, is going to be Zach Gallen going up against Oakland. It's uncomfortable. I don't like to attack Oakland a ton, especially when the roof is open in this park. But Oakland is striking out a lot. They're 8th in the league in strikeouts to righties. First to lefties, but that isn't really relevant today. And we know that the A's, most of their better hitters are right-handed outside of Matt Olson. So I expect to either see some, I'll see if the lineup's even out, but I expect to see a lot of righties in the lineup. And if not, the lefties that I expect to see there are not lefties you're all that afraid of. Guys like Vimil, Machine, Austin Allen, Robbie Grossman, Tony Kemp. So there are a few lefties, just not really any that I'm that afraid of. So Gallen's my favorite that's in the expensive tier. Talk to me about these other options that are in the lower mid to value section.
All right. Ross Stripling's probably one of my favorite targets. He'll probably be Oh, I might have lost you. You got me?
I had a Muse City. My bad. It was Muse City.
We're back.
We're back. We never left. We never left.
All right. All right.
Dude. Thirds.
So Ross Stripling, probably my favorite guy. I guess I'll take this down to 6-9 Freeland. All right. I don't love the idea of Jordan Montgomery, but we saw Hap do fine against Boston. They seem to be in a pretty big funk. I really don't love it, but, again, you're kind of just throwing shit at the wall down here, right? You got Gio Gonzalez, who we very rarely recommend. Detroit's been all right offensively, but if he doesn't walk a ton of people, get you that 14-15. Plus, I think he'll be in line for the win. Tuki Toussaint got rolled on by the Yanks. Has not looked good, but he really did look good last year, and I think we can take a shot there. Nobody's going to go there. They're going to look at his game logs, and he's going to look horrible. But especially against a righty, Washington really is not that intimidating. They might not have a ton of strikeouts, but I can get behind that. This Bielak kid from Houston, we don't know much, but he's been all right, and it's Colorado on the road. Patio Joe's in the chat. He'll be saying, the Coors effect after a series in Coors kind of deal. So that's there. I tried to say about Sanchez thing last week. It really didn't work. I'll cut it there. Bielak, Gonzalez, Tukey, and Ross Stripling, the ones I like the most.
Yeah, I think Stripling is another ownership deal, but because I think because the ceilings I think are a little limited today, so I'm cool with Stripling because he's cheaper, right? I don't need him to go out there and get me a 30 or a 26 or a 28. I just go out there and get me like a 15, and I'll feel comfortable. So even though he's going to be popular, I'm cool with taking some shots on him. As far as lower ownership guys, I think Brandon Bielak, like you mentioned, we don't know much about him, but he does have right now. I know walks are kind of giving a problem. He's got a 12.4% swinging strike rate. The Rockies really haven't been striking out a lot so far this year, but he had really good strikeout stuff in the minor leagues. I know it doesn't always mean it's going to translate, but again, we got to get a little dirty and try some different stuff. And then in the mid tier, the last guy I plan on putting in here is going to be Alex Cobb. As terrible as that sounds, his xFIP is pretty solid. He's done pretty well. We know the Blue Jays are a very free-swinging team, so they're either going to put the boots to Cobb and go nuts, or Cobb is going to actually have a pretty good game and could end up being one of the top scorers as far as pitching goes. We know Baltimore will let any starter that does well, they'll let them go as deep as they can because they know their bullpen is atrocious. So a very polarizing play. I don't have their offenses I liked more than Toronto, so I'm definitely on the Alex Cobb side of that. Although if you're doing 150 or just a lot of teams in general, I don't mind getting exposure to a little bit of both. But that's it. Like I said, something down and dirty. What about any value plays, guys like under 7K?
Yeah, I think Jordan Yamamoto at 6'6", in a good pitching park is definitely worth a look. And, Kyle Freeland, the lefty against Houston, I don't love, but, this guy was a Cy Young candidate 2 years ago. He's not in Coors. And, he's at least gone 6 innings or more in all 4 starts this year. Decent, but scary, like the rest of the slate. But that's basically, guys at that price you get a 10 or a 12 from, we're okay. Chris Bubik, it's risky against Minnesota, but you could take a stab. They do have a good umpire. Is Matt Whistler, he's not going to go more than 2 or 3 innings, right?
I don't think he's stretched out.
Yeah. This kid has been a gas can reliever. The Braves had him, then I forget where he went. I'm not talking about using him, but it would be, a reason to maybe use the Royals bats, but he's probably going to be gone in 2 innings, so no. You want to get really nuts, Justin Dunn against the Dodgers for 5K. The guy actually did well the last start, got you 11.5 points. You'd take that. That was Texas. Dodgers a little bit better of a team, but, sometimes they just come out and lay complete eggs. And, that could be the play of the slate. How many innings did Gesellman pitch last time?
Just
He got shelled,
yeah,
right?
yeah, just two, and I think part of that was because he got shelled. They're definitely going to stretch him out over the next few starts. They need him to be a fifth starter right now because Waka Waka got sent to the IL, and then Mats they're not committing to starting again because he's been bad. So they're gonna try to turn him into a starter, but that could take a little while, especially if he's getting shelled in between.
I mean, this is a really good spot on the road against the Marlins. At 4-5, I think he'd be worth a shot too. If I had to put my stamp of approval on these guys or rank it, it'd be Stripling to Saint and then probably Yamamoto. But Gesellman is probably a very similar play to those guys. I'd be cool with him too.
Yeah, I really don't hate it. I mean, I know Cedic is out for Miami. Lately, they've been throwing out a little bit of a different lineup than they've been using to start the season. We've seen a couple really young guys nobody's ever heard of in their lineup. And like you said, it's a pitching park. I don't hate the idea of Gesellman. I think my favorite value guy is going to be Chris Bubik. Really good numbers in the minors, and even in the majors. I know his ERA is somewhere in the fives, but his xFIP is 3.89. He's got a 24.2% strikeout rate. 6.5% walk rate, not really walking people, which is great on a whip site like DraftKings, and a 60% ground ball rate. So I think those are all promising. Obviously, a team like the Twins who don't strike out a lot, you're going to be subject to some BABIP. But the Twins were so far this season. I know it's early, but they've been really bad against lefties. So way worse than you would think. They have I think I have the numbers right here. Actually, their ISO is at 121. Their WOBA is at 296. And their WRC plus is at 85, so just really, really below average numbers against lefties. So I'm good with taking some stabs at Chris Bubik. Again, I'm not looking for the guy that's going to get me a 30. I don't think there's too many of those, if any, on here. I'm just looking for a little somebody to give me some double digits, and he's going to help me save some money. I feel comfortable pitching Gallen and whoever else I need to pitch with him. So he's the one I'm probably going to roll the dice with a little bit more. What about the bets, Paulie? What are some of the stacks you're looking at?
I mean, the Yankees against a lefty, even though most of those righty mashers ain't there, they still got guys that are hitting well right now. It seems like the Yankees hit 4 home runs a game every game, whether it's one guy hitting 3 or, everybody hitting 1. Gary the Sanchez, Gary the GOAT, has homered in 4 of his last 5. We know he can get real streaky hot. It seems just like, oh yeah, talk about the Yanks again, but man, they keep doing the dirt. I do have some interest in the Royals. I just think that they're a pretty solid lineup, 1 through 6. After that, it gets a little ugly. Thank you. And I'm really not confident in this Matt Whistler kid. He basically just throws gas, but very straight and doesn't have many other pitches. It's like fastball slider, fastball changeup. That's all he's got, and he's always gotten shelled throughout his career. So I think the Royals are interesting. Little sneak city. Toronto against Alex Cobb. That's one of those, either Alex Cobb balls out or he probably gets shelled, and then the bullpen. So I've got interest in the Toronto bats who I almost never on the slate, and I always see Toronto home runs, from early games, just not on our slate. Who else? The Chicago White Sox against Matt Boyd. Matt Boyd is what's that dude's name on Arizona? That lefty pitcher that's just not good, but strikes a lot of guys out. Robbie Ray.
Yeah.
Right? Matt Boyd is Robbie Ray, but worse. And he seems to give up 2 home runs a game. He's kind of boom bust. If you have a ton of White Sox stacks, I would do some hedging because he does have 10-12 strikeout upside. It just, it seems to be what draws you into him every time, and then he just never gets through a game unscathed. It's like every start, he has that upside. He starts out with a couple, and then he gets into trouble. And this is the epitome of that spot. Yesterday, we saw the White Sox go back to back to back to back, 4 home runs in a row. Like, it's exactly why we like them for GPPs, because they have that type of power and offense. But when they're off and they're going to strike out, so it's kind of that GPP spot where, like, if you do have a lot of White Sox bats, I would say have some hedge teams with Boyd in them. Atlanta against Anibal. I just think that he's worth, he got shelled by the Mets, and it's a good environment for hitting in Atlanta. And, outside of missing Acuna, I like this squad, and obviously they're one of the better offenses around, but not a ton of offenses that I like. I'd say Yankees, Kansas City, White Sox, Atlanta would be my top 4 at this point.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of those. Number one is for me. The number one is the Atlanta Braves. Like you said, Anibal Sanchez has been awful. This is the worst Anibal we've seen in a few years. We see a different Anibal every year. Some years he's really good at contact. Some years he's really good at strikeouts. He throws like 20 pitches, or at least he used to. But none of them are working this year. In every one of his starts, he's given up 4 runs or more. He's just been getting destroyed. This is, like you said, a good ballpark for Atlanta. Atlanta is definitely one of those offenses. Not that they've been terrible, but they've been striking out way more than they ever have over the last couple of years. Part of that is because of personnel changes, but a lot of that is just fucking probably no spring training and them just warming up a little bit. So against a guy like Anibal, who's having a hard time striking guys out this year, in a, like you said, a good hitting environment, hot and humid down in Atlanta, good park for lefties. I love the Braves, man. I think they're going to beat the shit out of Anibal. Number 2 is the Dodgers for me against Dunn. I know that Dunn's burned me. I think the last start he burned me, but that was, like you said, against Texas, against the Rangers, who've been awful. Dunn's got a 6.86 xFIP so far. He's got a 47.4% hard contact rate and a 47% fly ball rate as well. The Dodgers are one of the best offenses in the game, and he's got a real test for him today. The Dodgers are implied for like 6 runs. I do expect them to be fairly popular, but I do like the Dodgers. Third, the Chicago White Sox, another one I agree with you, Paulie. Matt Boyd last year was the only year where he was actually good. Every other year, he was kind of a gas can who gives up a ton of hard contacts and a ton of fly balls. And so far this year, it's been the same. He's not looking right. He's playing teams like he's like, if you're a cold team, he's turning you up. Like he saw the Pirates beat him up, and then after that, the Pirates started doing pretty well. So I do like the White Sox, who are an improved team. If you look at this, we got Tim Anderson, who you always want to play against a lefty. When they're against a lefty, I'm going to say this, and E5 is going to go yard, but I always prefer Abreu against a lefty, and I prefer E5 against the righty. That's just my own little personal thing. There's no super strong statistics that'll support that. It's just what I've seen from E5. We've been playing him a long time, and he never really does what I want him to do against lefties. Abreu, however, I do, and you need some way to fucking make that decision. So that's my little rule of thumb. So I'll be playing those guys. Mm-hmm. Eloy Jimenez, who we know is beast. I do like the White Sox, and I think they'll be low owned again. Next, I have the Angels going up against, I think it's Kyle. Is it Freeland? Freeland, right? Freeland or Anderson?
No.
It's Anderson. So this one's interesting. Yeah. I saw Brian in the chat was talking about are people sleeping on him? I don't think he's any good. His numbers this year are flat out awful. He's got a 7.48 xFIP. Again, a small sample, but we're talking about a guy that's got a 16% strikeout rate, a 52.2% fly ball rate. So, and he's playing an Angels team. I mean, this guy throws fastball changeups, and Anthony Rendon profiles extremely well. I know it's just one hitter, but I like the chances.
And he's red.
Yeah, and he's red hot, exactly. On top of that, the Giants' bullpen has been one of the worst in the league. It's like the Giants, the Mariners, like some teams, even the Astros are up there. Teams you wouldn't normally expect because of their tax or their missing bodies. They're, it's a little weird, so it's important to go check, which we have over at whitestake.com. Mm-hmm. You can sort it by whatever you want. We like to sort it by xFIP. Holla at play when you see him in the streets. But I do like Rendon, Trout, Pujols. I like a lot of other guys. We're seeing a different Fletcher, right? It's about fucking time. How much money has he lost us over the last couple of years? And he's finally getting his shit together, it looks like. So I do like the Angels. My last and final stack, and this is about money chasing, so if you want to shield your ears, be my guest. But it's the San Diego Padres. They got Lyles. Lyles' numbers are god-awful. They're banged up a little
You,
bit.
you know, yeah, they lost Tommy Pham.
Yeah,
That
they don't
hurts.
they
I,
don't
I
have.
was just about to say maybe we should look at Lyles. So go on.
It's possible. I just when I look at Lyles, he just something looks wrong, and I mean something always looks wrong with him. But right now he's got a 52% flat ball rate, a 37% hard contact rate. He's throwing like 70% curveballs, which isn't necessarily a plus, right? You want to see a guy throwing fastballs, but this guy like. When I see a pitcher that doesn't want to throw any fastballs, I mean, he's literally throwing 77% curveballs to right-handed hitters. That tells me that something's wrong with him. Something's wrong with his fastball or something. I mean, not even 20%, not even 30%. This guy's not throwing it. So, in combination with that and the Ranger bullpen being so terrible, I'm gonna take a shot, man. But like I said, honestly, Paulie, it's more of a money chase. You know, I've stacked the Padres pretty much every night for the last 5 days, and they've been awful. So I don't want to miss that fucking. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to miss that fucking day they finally do the dirt. But anyway,
Yep.
talk to me about I mean, I think there's some validity there. No Myers, no Tommy Pham, who's been a huge
Yeah,
difference maker. Go on.
yeah. It just weakens up this lineup. This ballpark has been, pitcher friendly. And like you look at this lineup now and it's like significantly more strikeout heavy, especially this one today. Like, you got Hedges, who's, basically just a lefty home run specialist, and then he strikes out all the other times. Josh Naylor, Cronenworth, Profar, Ty France. Outside of Tatis and Machado, there's not much that really scares you. And the pitcher park, like, I don't know. It's all ugly down there, you know what I mean? But I wouldn't use a guy throwing 73% of any pitch, So um, I think we just stay away from the situation more than anything.
Yeah, I hear. There's one situation that I don't have that I'm a little nervous about, and that's the Astros bats. I mean, they've been hot. They got an interesting lineup, but they still got their guys: Bregman, Springer, Correa, Altuve. They're all in there. They got Miles Straw
Yeah,
in there. It's a weird lineup. Dustin Garneau at catcher. What are your thoughts on the
yeah.
Astros, man?
When I saw the lineup, I backed off. Like, it really falls off, as it goes down. They had Alvarez back for one game. Now he's going back on the DL. And um, I think Freeland's like, I got respect for him. He really doesn't get rocked all that often. So, all those factors took me off of them.
That's ultimately why I made the decision as well. I'm still nervous about it. I'm gonna be honest. I'm still nervous because they are obviously one of the high upside teams on the slate. The Rockies bullpen is also atrocious. But I ultimately backed off for the same reason. I thought the lineup was a little weird looking. But I mean, at the end of the day, when you really look at it, they still have their main guys: Springer, Bregman, Gurriel, Correa, Altuve. They got Kyle Tucker, who's been awesome. Miles Straw, who was supposed to be pretty good against lefties. But I don't know. As of right now, I kind of had him on the outside looking in. Also. All right, let's answer some questions. Let's see it, nation. If there are any. Let me see. Brian says, my brother says, good spot for the Mets. Just got swept facing a rookie with a horrible ERA. If yes, how about a 2 through 5 stack? I know, Paul, you were talking about Yamamoto, and I think there's definitely validity there. Yamamoto's numbers are horrendous right now, but he still has a 25% K rate. He's got a good park. This is a different situation than when we attacked him the other day when he was in like Baltimore or some shit like that. Very, very different situation. I don't hate the Mets. The Mets, in the beginning of the day, they were one of the teams I liked, but then I researched the later games and realized I like the later games a lot better. But you got anything to say on that Yamamoto Mets? I know you lean more towards
I
Yamamoto.
like Yamamoto, you know. The man, they batting Pete Alonso 6 now.
No, yeah, he's been struggling this year, man.
Yeah, I mean this, JD Davis in the lineup, that's not optimal. Ahmed Rosario, like, this is not their optimal lineup. I like Yamamoto.
I don't like when they don't play that Jimenez kid. Not that he's some great hitter, but he's got speed, man. Like he seems to be a big
And he's
deal.
got,
Yeah, and he's
yeah,
got defense. He seems to be a big deal. That bothers me a little bit. But if you were going to stack the Mets, and we could take a look at Yamamoto real quick, this should be pretty easy. He is a fly ball guy, but I specifically only really look to attack him when he's in hitter parks. When he's in pitching parks, I mean that's really why even last year, that's why he escaped so long because he was hiding in Miami. And the Mets. This particular Mets lineup does have some strikeouts in it. J.D. Davis 28% against righties, Conforto 25%, Alonso 34%, Rosario 30%. That's a tough one. I don't think it's the worst. He's a fly ball guy, big time hard contact guy. Out of the 14 plate appearances lefties have had against Yamamoto this year, he's got a 100% hard contact rate. Obviously, those numbers are going to go down. They're going to go down. Nobody's going to finish at 100. But I understand what you see if you look at Yamamoto's numbers. That I was kind of indifferent on the game. I don't think they're going to be bad either way. There's a world where the Mets put up 6 runs. It's just not all on Yamamoto. And Yamamoto gets you a 15 and still does dirties. I just think, I don't see ceiling in this game. I didn't see ceiling for the Mets. I didn't see ceiling for Yamamoto. So for me, it was just like a blah. But that's going to be an interesting one. Mets, obviously, really disappointing. Extremely shitty. David Torrey, Jay Jones, Miggy, Scoop doing the dirty in Chi-Town. And the Detroit is interesting. I just didn't think, they're so cheap. They got Jacoby Jones leading off today, by the way, against Gio. I just didn't. They're cheap. I think if I like to spend, if I wanted to go a Ryu Gallen team, I would have pushed me onto them more. But I don't really have a ton of interest in the spend up guys, and I think that's why I was just like, I really don't need them, and they're better teams. But I don't hate the Tigers. Any thoughts on the Tigers?
I mean, I love Jacoby Jones leading off, and apparently this Willie Castro guy can hit. Miggy seems to be kind of back, and then the lineup just looks atrocious after that. I think, if there was expensive stud pitching on this slate, this would be a lineup we could talk about. On this slate, I'm more in favor of Gio. I think he'll be in line for the win. I don't think the Tigers are very patient. Gio gets in trouble when he's walking guys. I think he finds some strikeouts and is one of the more viable pitchers today.
Agreed. Here's a good question. Here's a good question from Jameis Boyce. Who will be the highest owned stack? So what team do you think is going to be the most popular today?
I haven't looked at any ownership shit, so this is good. I would say the Twins will be one of the more popular offenses.
The Dodgers have to be up there, right? They have the highest.
The Twins.
They have the highest total.
Dodgers,
they're the biggest favorite. Implied for 6.6 runs.
Yeah, Twins, Dodgers, Yankees, I guess.
Yeah. Maybe even throwing the Braves as a close third. Just because of the run totals. The Braves 5.9, the Dodgers 6.6. I mean, I do think that there are a lot of people who are going to chase those totals. I mean, those are two of my favorite stacks, but that sucks. But
Atlanta and the Dodgers and Washington are the most popular bats I'm seeing up
there. The Washington one I didn't really understand. I know the Yankees put it to Tucson, but if you're not a good team, Tucson's been doing dirties. I didn't want to go against Washington. They don't strike out enough, but I'm not saying why you shouldn't play them. I'm just saying I don't understand why they're up there. I see them. I also see them projected for decent ownership. And these guys Eden. I guess that's legit. It's got to be fan. Oh, wow. Adam Eden is 2.6. Okay, well I kind of understand that in a park that favors lefties. I get that why they might be popular, but dirt and dirts. Brian says the Astros don't cheat anymore. They suck again. I don't know if I go that far. They've broken a few slates. They've won you some money, Paulie.
Yeah, they did.
That's reparations for them screwing your Yankees. A little bit more. Arthur Dodger says, is it true that the Dome is supposed to be open in Arizona? Because he believes that there could be a sneaky stack if that is the case. Which I don't disagree with, man. The D-backs are a team that I'm a little worried about not having. Bassett, I think, is good, but he's pretty drastic split-wise. When it comes to left-handed bats, he has a hard time. So the D-backs are like a Wise Take Nation, sweetheart team. We just seem to have a thing for them. We don't like to attack them. We like to play them whenever we can. Any thoughts on that? I do think the roof is. I'll confirm while you're talking, but I do think the roof is supposed to be open.
So the roof being open thing is not what you should be making your decisions on. That's I liked Arizona, and now I like them even more. So let's just not oh, the roof's open. I like the offense. Like the offense first, and let that be a plus. And then, I just think there's much better spots out there. They have not shown us like a ton of upside outside of the 1 or 2 breakout games. Not a ton of power on this team. It's a lot of like line drives and that kind of stuff. And Bassett, you know, the slate's ugly enough that where you could say he's one of the better pitchers on the slate. So it's like, you know, that's like if you did the slate 100 times, 3 or 4 times, maybe they win the slate feud. That's it. That's just low odds for me. But I feel you. Like, they are one of those teams that, like, you don't really ever want to pick on because they don't strike out much. And they do seem to, like, hit in bunches when they get going. But not today. And Oakland is, like, the best at baseball. So.
Yeah. One thing I will say on behalf of the D-backs, at a positive note, is just looking at the profiles, Bassett does throw a lot of sinkers. He's a very sinker-heavy pitcher. In fact, I'm actually surprised, but if you look at his actual pitch types, he only throws the slider about 20% of the time to righties, 14 to lefties. He throws a changeup to lefties at 22. Other than that, he throws a lot of fastballs. He throws sinkers 53% to righties, 15% four seams. And the one thing I'll say about the D-backs, they profile extremely well. All with decent-sized samples, they profile extremely well against the sinker. That's not going to be the only pitch he throws, but that is worth noting. My biggest drawback at this point would be, to Paulie's point, is the A's bullpen. That would be my biggest drawback at this point, because at the end of the day, it's only, you know, you're only going to see this. Even if you blast off on the starter, at a certain point, that bullpen comes in, and then what? However, this is an A's team that's had the luxury of mostly pitching in pitcher-friendly ballparks, between where they pitch, the Giants Stadium, the Angels. You can argue is pitcher-friendly depending on the handedness. So I don't hate it, but I don't know. Maybe I am looking for a team. The Padres have me on the fence at this point. So I guess if there was a team I was going to swap out, you know, maybe do a pivot like that. But Pivot City. But I think that's going to do it. We'll do some home runs, and we'll get up out of here, Paulie. Who's going deep?
Good question. Let's go Cliff. Anthony Rendon.
Oh, I like that one. Actually, he's one of my don calls in my article, so I love that. Same page on that one. I will go with give me Tim Anderson. Tim Anderson.
Eloy, and then
Ooh, yeah, Eloy. Eloy. I will go with give me Jock Peterson.
And I'm going to take Randall Grichuk.
Grichuk City. Let's go. I'm gonna look for a Brave here. Let's go with I'll go with Freddie Freeman. I know it's a cop out, but I'll go with Freddie Freeman. Fuck it. Let's see. I don't see any other questions, so we're gonna get up out of here. Anything in closing, Paulie?
Do thy dirty to thy neighbor.
That's it. I'm gonna follow up what's been an awesome week. Awesome month, really, man. The month of August has been phenomenal. Sports are back. We're excited. Sweat your NBA games. Sweat your baseball. Build them teams. You got a little over 20 minutes to get it done. For myself, for Paulie D, the entire yes, sir. Wise Take Nation. We'll be back at it tomorrow with NBA and MLB again. And as always, good luck.